Okay, we've talked about one-step equations and inequalities. Now we're going to talk about multi-step equations and inequalities. So here are the steps you take to do it. And I'll go ahead and tell you step 1 and step 2 aren't going to be very common, but this will work anytime you have multi-step equations. So just like I encouraged you on the previous lesson with one step, when you're practicing this, I'd encourage you to have these notes right next to you so you learn the rhythm and the routine of these steps. Because really, if you just read them each time you're going through a problem, it won't be hard for it to stick in your memory that way. So if one side of the equation is one big fraction, so I don't think there's an example on here like that. Oh, there is. Here you go. 13 and 14 are what I'm referring to there. So if one side of the equation, or the inequality, is one big fraction, then the first step is to multiply both sides by its denominator. And I'll show you that once we get to those, but just wanting to talk you through the steps right now. If you can distribute, do it. So let's see, yes, down at 15 and 16. On these two, your first step would be to distribute the 2. This one would be to distribute the negative 3. Step 3, if there are variables on both sides of the equation, add or subtract one of them to both sides in order to put them together. So if you've got variables on both sides of the equation, then you want to combine them first. Then you'll want to add or subtract any constants away from the term with the variable. Then you'll divide or multiply both sides by a number to get that variable by itself. Yeah, sorry, I forgot those words. Get the variable by itself. Okay. So as I said, step 1 and 2 won't happen very often. And step 3 won't occur in this unit, but it is going to occur later in the school year. So that's why I put it there. So again, this can be the guide to any multi-step equations or inequalities we do all year. Okay. So this, we can skip all the way to step 4. There's no huge fraction. There's nothing to distribute. And like I said, step 3 is not going to happen in this unit, but it will later. So we can jump to step 4, which says add or subtract any constants away from the term of the variable. So this is the term of the variable. So I want to move the 2 over, so I'll subtract 2 from both sides. Then you'll divide both sides by 5 and get d equals 2. Okay, on number 2, again, we can skip to step 4. We'll add 3 to both sides. And then we will divide both sides by 3. So that's step 5. Divide or multiply both sides by a number to get the variable by itself. So since it was 3 times x, we did the opposite and we divided by 3. And get x is greater than 3. Okay, number 3. Like I talked about in the one-step lesson, anytime you see minus and negative, you should change it to plus a positive. Because subtracting a negative is the same thing as adding a positive. It's because of the keep, change rule. Okay, so step 4, we need to subtract 7 from both sides. Get negative 12 is less than negative 4y. Now step 5, we've got to get rid of this negative 4 that's attached to the y to get the y by itself. So I'll divide both sides by negative 4. Negative 12 divided by negative 4 is positive 3. And because I divided by a negative number, I also have to flip the inequality sign. So I get 3 is greater than y. Or if you want, you could say y is less than 3. You can say it either way. Okay, number 4. Again, with this we can skip straight to step 4. Most of the problems on here we'll skip just to step 4. So we'll add 4 to both sides, leaving negative 3x equals 15. Then we'll divide both sides by negative 3. We get x equals negative 5. So we get rid of the constants first. We get rid of the coefficients second. The constants are numbers by themselves. The coefficients are numbers that are being multiplied or divided by the variable. Okay, number 5. Again, we can skip straight to step 4. We need to move this constant. Now, I know you see a minus sign here, but you don't look to the right of a number to figure out what to do with it. You look to the left. There's nothing written, which means it's a positive 2. So you subtract 2 from both sides. That gives us 7 equals negative 7c, because this basically becomes 2 minus 2 is 0, and 0 minus 7c is negative 7c. So that's why that minus sign stays as a negative. Now we divide both sides by negative 7, and we get negative 1 is equal to c. Okay, number 6. The constant is minus 11, so we do the opposite and we add 11. And then 24 plus 11 is 35. We divide both sides by 7. We get y is less than 5. Okay. Number 7. We gotta get rid of the 5 first. It's the constant. It's a plus 5, so we do the opposite and we subtract 5. And we have x divided by 4, so we do the opposite and we multiply both sides by 4. So 4's cancel, 4 divided by 4 is 1. So we just have 1x is less than or equal to 24. Okay, number 8, we have a negative 4. So we add 4 to both sides. We get negative 3y equals 12. Then we divide both sides by negative 3. So we get y is equal to negative 4. Okay, number 9. This is a positive 2 because there's no sign written in front of it, so it's an understood positive. So we subtract 2 from both sides. Negative 7 equals y over negative 3. We are dividing y by negative 3, so now we've got to multiply both sides by negative 3. Negative 3 times negative 7 is 21, so 21 is equal to y. 10, we add 2 to both sides because it's a minus 2. And g is being divided by negative 2, so we need to multiply both sides by negative 2. So remember, when you divide or multiply by a negative number, you have to flip the inequality sign. So we change this to less than. Negative 18 is less than g. (11). We start with a constant, the number that's not attached to the variable, so we subtract 3 from both sides. Get x over negative 8 equals 3. X is being divided by negative 8, so we multiply both sides by negative 8. Negative 8 divided by negative 8 is 1, so we have 1x is equal to negative 24. Number 12, got to get rid of the 15 first. It's minus 15, so we do the opposite and we add 15. Negative 8 plus 15 is positive 7. T is being divided by 4, so we multiply both sides by 4. 4's cancel. We get 28 is less than t. Okay, now we finally get to some that use steps other than just 4 and 5. So if you look back, this is what I was referring to as step 1. If one side of the equation is one big fraction, multiply both sides by its denominator. So you see, excuse me, in several problems on the back here, we did have a fraction on one side, but it wasn't the whole side that was a fraction. But here, this entire side is a fraction. So when that happens, your first step is to multiply both sides by its denominator. So the negative 3's cancel, because you're saying negative 3 divided by negative 3, which is 1. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. Then we subtract 4 from both sides. Okay, 14. We need to multiply both sides by 3, so we get rid of that giant fraction. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. I have to get rid of this constant. This is step 4. So we add 2 to both sides. We get negative 10 is greater than x. Okay, and these go to step 2, where it says if you can distribute, do it. So our first thing we do here, before we do anything else, is distribute the 2. Sorry, not sure why I wrote 48. 78. Okay, and we do have some like terms we can combine here. So negative 10 plus 4 is negative 6. Now we're ready to do our old fashioned step 4, step 5. So we add 6 to both sides. And divide both sides by 2. Gives us x is less than 42. Almost made it, just one more problem. It also is one where we want to distribute first. So we do negative 3 times y, and negative 3 times 2, which is negative 6. And you can write that as plus negative 6, or just write it as minus 6. It means the same thing either way. Since it's a negative 6, we add 6 to both sides. We get 57 equals negative 3y. Divide both sides by negative 3. And we get negative 19 is equal to y. So I encourage you, when you're practicing on homework and classwork, have these steps right in front of you so you get used to it. Most of them are just going to require step 4 and step 5. And you won't have to worry about 3 right now. We'll save that for later. But steps 1 and 2, when they show up, make sure you do it.